All right, let's jump right into it. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a deep, comprehensive dive into a truly fascinating contemporary text. We are doing a complete literary analysis of the Maithili poetry anthology Videha '07, and we're going to cover the entire collective of authors within it. If you're curious about how ancient languages and literary structures actually survive, adapt, and fight back in the modern world, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to explore how this diverse roster of poets uses regional verse to tackle some incredibly heavy global and local themes. Let's get started. Take a look at this stunning, intricate Madhubani art, anchoring the cover of our source text. I want to start here because it really grounds us visually in the ancient, deeply spiritual cultural heritage of the Mithila region. But as you'll see, the poetry inside this anthology, it's not just some static museum piece. It's a living, breathing, and honestly, sometimes painful reflection of modern survival.
Here's the roadmap for our explainer today. First, we'll look at the Videha movement. Second, ancient theories applied to modern verse. Third, the pain of palayan, or migration. Fourth, we'll tackle modern social realities. And finally, we'll discuss the future of the Maithili language. Breaking down this high-level theory is really going to serve as our guide to deeply understanding the emotional core of the poetry itself.
Starting off with Section 1, the Videha movement.
And moving right into Section 2, Ancient Theories, Modern Verse. To truly understand these poems, we have to look at the platform that publishes them. The mission of the Videha e-journal and its editor Gajendra Thakur is to meticulously preserve and parallel publish Maithili literature in a rapidly changing world. And Thakur's introductory essay is so fascinating because he doesn't just hand you the poems, he gives you a profound framework for how to read them by applying ancient Indian poetics directly to contemporary verse. Let's look at two of the most vital concepts he introduces. So, the first crucial concept to grasp here is ras. Think of it like brewing a perfectly steeped cup of tea. It demands that poetry be way more than just clever words thrown on a page. It's about a deep, permanent emotional state that ripens into an aesthetic flavor. The poet's goal isn't just to tell you a story. It's to transfer an entire emotional and spiritual experience directly to you. According to the ancient traditions cited in the text, if a poem doesn't generate this specific aesthetic experience, it basically falls flat. And that perfectly illustrates our next foundational concept, sphota. This is a brilliant linguistic theory highlighted by the editor. Imagine meaning literally bursting forth. The idea is that profound concepts are transmitted sequentially, from letter to sound to word to sentence, until the ultimate comprehension just blooms in your mind. It's this highly intimate process that connects the poet directly to the listener's soul, using the very specific sounds of their regional language.
Now check out the stark contrast between these deeply spiritual Indian traditions and modern Western critical traditions, like Marxism and post-structuralism. The text impartially notes that while Western frameworks focus heavily on utilitarianism and dismantling class structures, the Indian tradition is zeroed in on self-realization and aesthetic joy. The editor actually uses this contrast to offer a critique of some modern poetry, arguing that a lot of it relies too heavily on shallow political posturing, like marketing and social media metrics, rather than achieving true, timeless artistic depth.
Which leads us directly into Section 3, the pain of palayan. So, with that heavy theoretical foundation laid out, let's move from theory to practice.
These structural theories give immense weight to a recurring, tragic theme found throughout the collective verses of all these authors. That theme is palayan, or migration. Listen to this translation from poet Rajesh Mohan Jha, Gunjan. Mithila has become Shithila, lifeless. No work is found, the stomach isn't filled. That isn't just a complaint, right? It's a heartbreaking documentation of reality. These poems deeply explore the economic exile that is driving the youth away from their homeland. They're forced to leave to find work, leaving behind an aging, empty village. It is the human cost of economic disparity captured perfectly in verse.
This sets up Section 4, Modern Social Realities. The poets in this anthology certainly don't shy away from the harsh grit of contemporary life.
Looking across the entire collective of authors in this anthology, we see them tackling some incredibly heavy, everyday struggles. They deliver fierce condemnations of the destructive dowry system. We see sharp jabs at rampant political corruption and the crippling unemployment that fuels the migration we just talked about. They collectively mourn the erosion of their cultural identity, and they paint this very stark, unromanticized contrast between decaying village life and the harsh realities of urbanization. It's a remarkably grounded and comprehensive scope of work.
Just listen to this powerfully evocative quote from Pankaj Kumar Jha. He writes about a spineless man relying on the crutch of dowry, a life devoid of creativity, alienated from nature. This is a razor-sharp social and feminist critique. It targets the decay of patriarchal systems, showing how relying on exploitative traditions like dowry doesn't just harm women. It literally strips the men of their own masculinity, their creativity, and their connection to the natural world.
To really grasp the weight of this, we have to put human faces to the movement. Authors like Ramakant Jha Sarath and Jagdish Prasad Mandal represent the everyday voices of Maithili literature, perfectly capturing the spirit of all the contributors here. Their works aren't written from ivory towers. They are written from the dust of the village. They capture the authentic suffering, the dark humor, and the sheer survival instinct required in agrarian life today. And that brings us to our final, and perhaps most urgent topic, Section 5, Future of the Maithili Language. Woven through the editor's essay and the poignant lines of all the contributing poets is this overarching existential anxiety about whether the language will even survive. There is a stark, almost tragic irony at play here. On one hand, you have a nostalgic myth, people clinging to this golden age of Maithili, remembering past glories. But the urgent reality, as the text points out, is that they now require language camps and workshops just to teach native speakers how to pronounce basic Maithili words correctly. The language is literally fading from the tongue. So it forces us to ask a really critical question. Can ancient verse survive modern apathy in an increasingly globalized world? What we're seeing in Videha 07 isn't just an isolated local issue. The specific linguistic and cultural struggles of Maithili mirror broader global trends of cultural homogenization. When a regional language dies, the unique way of experiencing the world, the Ras and the Sfoda we unpacked earlier, dies right along with it.
The text delivers this incredibly stark warning. If the village dies today, the number of speakers of this language will become drastically small. The survival of this rich literature is inextricably tied to the survival of the rural agrarian lifestyle. If the youth keep migrating, if the villages keep emptying out because there's no economic opportunity, the language loses its physical home. It's that simple, and that devastating.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought derived from the collective verses of all the authors in this anthology. Are we just writing our own destiny with our own hands, or are we oblivious to the destruction? This explainer isn't just an analysis of poetry, it's a massive cultural call to action. Videha 07 challenges its readers to stop being passive observers to the fading of their heritage. It asks all of us to look at the regional art and literature around us and seriously consider our role in its survival. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.